Okay, gentlemen, all bets are in. It's time to spin the wheel and see which dormant Nintendo IP is getting revived next. Ha!
Golf! Wow! Screw you, mobile golf! Screw you, Mario Golf! Screw you, esports golf! The true king is back! Wow!
You know what? Good for him. I try not to traffic in doom and gloom on this channel, especially on the topic of dormant Nintendo IPs, because the general buzz surrounding them is already mostly negative. We're very lucky that F-Zero 99 came out when it did and continues to get support, because prior to that, the conversation around F-Zero was dominated by complaints of no new games by both fans and non-fans alike. Rightfully so, to a degree, but too much complaining can inspire whole hordes of other Nintendo fans to actively root against a prospective revival, just because they're exhausted and annoyed by the discourse. Remember being a Paper Mario fan in 2020? Ugh. It's important, I think, when lamenting a series' lack of activity, to highlight what you love about what's already happened so that people understand that the negativity is born from want for positive outcomes, rather than just standard run-of-the-mill internet kvetching. Or you can just punch down on a series and treat the idea of someone being a fan of it as an absurd joke. That's very original and clever. Lots of YouTubers do it.
Hey, what's up, guys? I know we're all so hyped for Mario, more Mario, Pokemon, more Mario, and, arms. As if, arms.
Returning viewers of this channel are probably aware of my fixation on what I call Nintendo's IP hierarchy, that is, the popularity status of Nintendo's IP, because most of my favorites are infrequently released at best and completely dormant at worst. In any event, I've been charting the grand total of Nintendo's original IPs, or at least as many as I can, and have come across quite a few that I could just tell at a glance, there's next to no chance this ever makes a comeback. And it got me thinking. I make so many videos wanting, wishing, and proposing revivals for so many dormant Nintendo IPs. Why not flip the script just this one time and highlight some obscure dormant IPs that I really could care less about? I understand I run the risk of sounding like the guys who punch down on ARMS or Codename Steam by doing this, so to prevent this idea from being too mean-spirited, I'll propose a revival idea for every single game I mention here in good faith. Who knows, maybe I'll make some very small fan bases very happy, or even create new ones in the process. One last thing to mention, here are the guidelines I followed to come up with this list. A. Each IP must be made up of just one game. You'd be surprised how many original Nintendo IPs consist of just one game. B. Each IP must be one that Nintendo almost certainly owns and would thusly be the ones to revive it. Or in this case, not revive it. C. Cancelled games, pre-NES arcade games, and tech demos do not count. They're too obvious, and if I'm being honest, too interesting. Not that this video won't be interesting, mind you, I just mean that the ones that I don't care about, oh, never mind. And finally, D. No repeat consoles. There are literally hundreds of games for me to sift through to make up this list. I could do way more than 5. Heck, I could probably do whole videos just looking at abandoned Game Boy IPs, or NES IPs, or all of those Nintendo Game Seminar IPs stuck on the DS. But I don't want to overburden myself here. If this video performs well, I can always do more.
With all that having been said, let's start the countdown. In no particular order, 5 Nintendo IPs that will never be revived. Unless they are, someday.
No one's ever really gone.
Number 1. Alleyway. Here's something nice and simple to start us off. Alleyway is a Game Boy clone of Arkanoid that sees Mario piloting the little paddle thingy, and sometimes the blocks are arranged in the shape of a Mario enemy. That's all. Some of you might be thinking to yourselves, wait, isn't this an extension of the Mario IP then? And you're not wrong, but I classify any Mario-adjacent game or series whose title doesn't contain the word Mario in it to be a distinct IP. Else Super Smash Bros. And Punch-Out are also technically Mario games, right? I don't know, it's a whole thing. Maybe I'll make a video about that in the future. Either way, Alleyway is perfectly suited for the Game Boy's MO of easy, endless pick-up and play, easy-to-put-down experiences. but its core mechanics are derivative and not especially suited to continuous iteration. Still and all, if Nintendo were to release a brand new alleyway game in the current year, I think it'd be cool if it included a variety of online competitive modes like Tetris 99. And I would also love to see power-ups and other modifiers included to expand on the original's bare bones mechanics. And finally, I think it would be cool if it ditched Mario in favor of either totally new characters piloting these paddle ships, or even just use a different existing Mario character other than Mario to be the headliner. Could this be the star vehicle Waluigi's been looking for? Probably not. That's why it's on this list. Number 2. Nestor's Funky Bowling. Nestor was a mascot for the North American magazine Nintendo Power, and Nintendo's Research and Development Team 3 made him the title character for a bowling game on the Virtual Boy, released exclusively in the United States. Lucky us. I imagine Nestor must have some sort of cult following, considering plenty of kids in the 80s and 90s probably remember him fondly, but I doubt many were made fans through a bowling game released on Nintendo's worst-selling and most notoriously low-quality console. So while I very much doubt the Nestor IP will ever be revived, I think the best way to go about it would be to make it a cross between Clubhouse games and Nintendo Land. Like Nestor, his friends, and some other Nintendo characters congregate to play some bowling, maybe play, like, I don't know, tag, hide and seek, maybe some classic Nintendo arcade titles. Actually, maybe they could get together to read some HD scans of old issues of Nintendo Power magazine. It ties it in nice and it's like it's full circle or something. There's potential in every IP, no matter how... Well, come on, you gotta admit this is odd to say the least, right? Number 3. Pro Wrestling. One of Nintendo's original black box titles for the NES. Some of you may remember the infamous "A winner is you" meme. Or not. I don't know, I teach a high school class where half of the room doesn't know who Elmer Fudd is. I don't know what people remember or not. I don't normally consider the, quote, generic sport or public domain concept that just so happens to have been made in-house at Nintendo, unquote, category of game to be a distinct Nintendo IP, but this one features a cast of original named characters, so that's gotta count for something, right? Either way, I think it's obvious why I don't think this is ever getting revived. In the 40 years since this game came out, Nintendo's gone on to make plenty of fighting and contact sport games with casts of other original characters, and still, never these characters, and never a pro wrestling game. If Nintendo were to revive this IP, I think it should A, feature some sort of moniker preceding the pro wrestling part, maybe Buff Brothers Pro Wrestling, I don't know, just something to make it different. B, it should be a 3D simulation fighter. I know it would have steep competition with so many officially licensed wrestling sims on the market, but that's why C, it should take a cue from Punch-Out Wii and lean in hard on a super cartoony style. I could imagine an NES Pro Wrestling revival of this sort becoming a beloved fixture of Nintendo canon, but I also suspect it will never happen. Still, it's possible. Number 4. And-Kensaku. Do you remember seeing this guy as a spirit in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? Did you wonder to yourself, what's his deal? Where's he from? Well, I'm here to tell you he's the mascot of a Japan-exclusive minigame compilation on the Wii based around Google search results. When I say this is weird, I don't mean this is stupid. I just mean, and don't you dare try to deny it, this is weird. I can't read Japanese, so I can't tell what exactly all of these games entail, but based on what I've read on wiki articles and the like, these games are kinda like You Don't Know Jack or other Jackbox games like Espionage or Fibbage. In essence, it's a variety quiz show that uses true facts gathered from Google's search statistics. I do not think this will ever get revived because it's just so oddly specific and somewhat ephemeral. Not really something that can stand to the test of time by its very nature. But if it were to be revived, I imagine Nintendo would partner with Google again, or whoever, and make the game dynamic so that it updates and generates new quiz questions and answers based on real-time data. Or else, they could ditch Google and retool the games to be based on you and your friend's Nintendo system data and analytics. Like, how many hours does Friend B have in Minecraft? Or, when was the last time Friend C opened the Mii Maker? Hey, you know what, that might actually be fun. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's a huge amount of exciting potential in this idea. Shame that I doubt Nintendo will ever do it, but Number 5. Tube Slider. Here is a fascinating case. You might know ND Cube, or Nintendo Cube as they have recently been renamed after being purchased by Nintendo, as the current developers of the Mario Party games and Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics. Well, back in the early 2000s, when they just got their start after developing F-Zero Maximum Velocity on the Game Boy Advance, they pitched Nintendo an F-Zero game for the GameCube. But Nintendo had already partnered with Amusement Vision to develop F-Zero GX for the GameCube. So ND Cube took the work they had done on this F-Zero proof of concept and turned it into a legally distinct title, Tube Slider, published by NEC Interchannel and released on the GameCube in 2003, the same year as F-Zero GX. Tube Slider isn't a bad game by any means, but definitely not as enjoyable as F-Zero GX in my opinion. So now that Nintendo owns ND Cube and even renamed them to Nintendo Cube, I think it's safe to assume Tube Slider is an official Nintendo property now. But what would be the point in continuing it when it's objectively just an F-Zero game without the characters, world building, or some of the more iconic mechanics or nothing? While the obvious answer may be to put some Easter eggs or overt references in a new F-Zero game that canonizes Tube Slider as taking place in its world, that doesn't actually revive the IP. It just merges it with the F-Zero one. Gosh, guys, this one has actually got me stumped. Like, if I say if they were to bring this back, they should make it completely different, then it's like, what's the point of it being a continuation of Tube Slider in the first place? And at that point, just make it a new IP. Gosh, I am sorry, Tube Slider fans. If you're out there, please let me know how you'd want a revival to be handled in the comments, because frankly, this may be the one exception I can think of an existing IP out there that cannot have a dedicated fan base who wants to see it revived. It's literally just Diet F-Zero. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, Tube Slider fans. Legitimately, if you're out there. And if you're not out there, okay, you can laugh now.
And there you have it. 5 Nintendo IPs that I believe will never be revived. Knowing Nintendo, I expect to see every single one of these IPs get revived within the next year, but none of them handled in the ways I've proposed in this video. Because that's just the way they are. Why don't you guys tell me about some other dormant Nintendo IPs in the comments you don't think will ever be revived, and ways you think their revivals could be interesting. Super hard mode challenge for you too. They can't be IPs that you cherish dearly with all your heart. Or they can, and you can just pretend that they aren't because I won't know the difference. Maybe that way Nintendo will actually revive them. Hey, that gives me an idea. If there's one Nintendo IP that they will never ever revive, it's definitely Excitebots. Not in a million years. Not Freaky Forums neither. Not Codename Steam. No way. Not those ones. Haha. No way. No how. Boy, oh boy, will they never ever do a new custom Robo. No, sir. And I don't even care, because those IPs are definitely not near and dear to my heart. Oh man, I feel dirty.